Beneath every step, beneath every city, field, and forgotten wilderness, lies a story so vast it stretches beyond imagination. A story written not in ink, but in stone. For millions of years, life has risen, thrived, and vanished, leaving behind only fragments of its existence buried deep within the earth. To the untrained eye, the ground appears silent, lifeless. But to paleontologists, it is a vast archive, layer upon layer of ancient worlds, each holding secrets of creatures that once ruled the planet. Sometimes a single storm, a landslide, or the patient work of human hands reveals a glimpse of this hidden past. A bone emerges, pattern in rock forms, and suddenly, a window opens into a time long before humanity existed, into ecosystems alien, violent, and endlessly fascinating. The story begins not with a creature, but with the Earth itself. Over hundreds of millions of years, shifting tectonic plates, rising seas, and collapsing continents created a dynamic and ever-changing landscape. Sedimentary deposits accumulated slowly, grain by grain, preserving moments in time like pages in a book. Rivers carried silt across vast plains, oceans swallowed coastlines, and volcanic eruptions blanketed entire regions in ash. Within these layers, the remains of ancient organisms, plants, shells, bones, became entombed. Pressure and time transformed them into fossils, preserving not only their shapes but sometimes even microscopic details of their biology. In one such region, far from modern civilization, a team of paleontologists carefully brushes away dust from a jagged outcrop of rock. At first glance, the formation appears unremarkable, but closer inspection reveals something extraordinary: a series of repeating structures embedded within the stone. These are not random formations. They are vertebrae, aligned in a gentle curve, hinting at the spine of a long-extinct creature. Each fragment is meticulously uncovered, revealing more of the skeleton with every passing hour. The process is painstaking, requiring precision and patience. One careless movement could destroy evidence that has survived for millions of years. As the excavation continues, the shape of the creature begins to emerge. Its bones suggest a powerful body, supported by strong limbs and a flexible spine. The skull, partially preserved, reveals sharp, serrated teeth, an unmistakable sign of a predator. This animal once moved through its environment with purpose, hunting, surviving, adapting. But what environment was this? What world did it inhabit? To answer these questions, scientists must look beyond the bones themselves. The surrounding rock holds vital clues. Layers of fine-grained sediment indicate a floodplain environment, where rivers once meandered across a vast landscape. Fossilized plant material suggests dense vegetation, ferns, cycads, and early flowering plants. Pollen grains, preserved in microscopic detail, provide further evidence of the climate, revealing a warm and humid ecosystem. This was a world teeming with life, where predators and prey coexisted in a delicate balance. The anatomy of the creature offers deeper insights into its role within this ecosystem. Its limb structure indicates both strength and agility, suggesting it could pursue prey over short distances. The curvature of its claws implies a firm grip, useful for capturing struggling animals. Even the arrangement of its teeth reveals specialized feeding behavior, designed to slice through flesh with efficiency. Every aspect of its anatomy tells a story, one of adaptation, survival, and evolutionary refinement. Yet this single skeleton is only part of a much larger narrative. Beneath it, above it, and stretching far beyond the excavation site are countless other layers, each representing a different chapter in Earth's history. In deeper strata, older fossils reveal entirely different forms of life, creatures with unfamiliar shapes, adapted to environments that no longer exist. Some bear little resemblance to modern organisms, their anatomical structures reflecting evolutionary experiments that have long since disappeared. In one lower layer, paleontologists uncover the remains of marine life, shells, corals, and the delicate impressions of soft-bodied organisms. This discovery indicates that the region was once submerged beneath a shallow sea. Over time, Geological forces uplifted the land, transforming ocean floors into dry plains. The transition from marine to terrestrial environments is recorded in the rock itself, offering a timeline of ecological change spanning millions of years. Higher in the sequence, another discovery emerges: footprints preserved in hardened mud. These trace fossils capture a fleeting moment in time, the movement of an animal across a soft surface, later buried and fossilized. The spacing and depth of the prints provide information about the creature's size, weight, and gait. Unlike bones, which reveal structure, footprints reveal behavior. They show how an animal interacted with its environment, how it moved, and sometimes even how it hunted or fled. As scientists piece together these clues, a broader picture begins to form. The ancient world was not static. It was a dynamic system, constantly evolving in response to environmental pressures. Climate shifts, volcanic activity, and asteroid impacts all played roles in shaping the course of life on Earth. Entire ecosystems could rise and fall within relatively short geological periods, leaving behind only traces for future generations to uncover. One of the most significant aspects of these buried stories is their ability to reveal evolutionary relationships. By comparing fossils from different layers and regions, paleontologists can trace the lineage of species, identifying patterns of adaptation and divergence. Subtle changes in bone structure, tooth shape, or limb proportions can indicate how a species evolved over time, responding to changes in its environment. These evolutionary pathways are not always linear. They branch, overlap, and sometimes end abruptly, marking extinction events that reshaped the course of life. The fossil record also reveals moments of sudden transformation, periods when new forms of life emerged rapidly, filling ecological niches left vacant by extinction. These events are often linked to dramatic environmental changes, such as shifts in climate or catastrophic disturbances. In these moments, the Earth becomes a stage for rapid innovation, where survival depends on the ability to adapt quickly. But perhaps the most compelling aspect of this hidden story is its incompleteness. For every fossil discovered, countless others remain buried, lost to erosion or hidden deep beneath layers of rock. The record is fragmented, offering glimpses rather than a complete picture. Yet within these fragments lies an extraordinary narrative, a testament to the resilience and diversity of life. Back at the excavation site, the team continues their work, carefully documenting each find. Every bone is mapped, photographed, and preserved, contributing to a growing body of knowledge. The skeleton, once fully uncovered, will be transported to a laboratory, where further analysis will reveal even more details. Advanced imaging techniques may uncover internal structures, while chemical analysis could provide insights into the creature's diet and physiology. As the sun sets over the barren landscape, casting long shadows across the dig site, the significance of the discovery becomes clear. This is not just a collection of bones. It is a connection to a world that existed millions of years ago, a world that, despite its distance in time, continues to shape the present. The ground beneath our feet is not merely soil and stone. It is a vast archive of life, waiting to be uncovered, studied, and understood. And as long as there are layers left unexplored, the story of ancient life, hidden beneath our feet, remains far from complete. In the controlled silence of the laboratory, the excavated skeleton becomes something more than stone and mineralized bone. Under the glow of scanning lights and high-resolution imaging systems, its internal architecture is revealed in extraordinary detail. What once lay buried beneath layers of sediment now emerges as a complete biological record. Vascular channels within bone, growth rings that mark years of life, and microscopic traces of minerals that replaced organic tissue over unfathomable spans of time. Each structure tells a story not only of death and burial, but of life itself. How this organism grew, healed, adapted, and ultimately disappeared from the living world. Paleontologists begin to reconstruct its biological profile with increasing precision. The density of the bone suggests a powerful musculature, while joint articulation reveals a balance between speed and endurance. Chemical signatures preserved within the fossil hint at a diet composed of other vertebrates, placing the creature firmly within the role of apex predator in its ancient ecosystem. Yet even as its image becomes clearer, it raises deeper questions. This was not an isolated species. It belonged to a long and complex evolutionary lineage, one shaped by environmental pressure and extinction events stretching back tens of millions of years. To understand that lineage, scientists turn their attention back to the rock layers from which it was extracted. Stratigraphy, the study of layered sedimentary deposits, becomes the key to unlocking time itself. Each layer represents a distinct chapter in Earth's history, compressed into stone. The deeper the layer, the older the world it represents. And within these layers, patterns begin to emerge. Sudden disappearances of species, abrupt changes in fossil composition, and shifts in sediment that signal dramatic environmental transformation. In a newly examined site hundreds of kilometers away, a different excavation reveals an entirely separate ecosystem preserved in astonishing detail. Here, the fossils are not dominated by large predators, but by an intricate web of smaller organisms, early mammals, primitive reptiles, and diverse plant life forming dense prehistoric forests. Fossilized pollen grains indicate seasonal variation, suggesting a climate that oscillated between humid growth periods and cooler, drier intervals. Fallen logs, now turned to stone, lie preserved exactly where they once collapsed, trapping insects and small vertebrates beneath their weight. Among these remains, a particularly significant discovery emerges. A layer of unusually dark sediment enriched with iridium, a rare element on Earth but commonly associated with extraterrestrial impact events. This thin boundary layer marks one of the most profound turning points in Earth's biological history, a mass extinction event that reshaped life on a global scale. Below this layer, fossils show a thriving, diverse ecosystem. Above it, a stark reduction in biodiversity appears. Entire lineages vanish abruptly, replaced over time by new groups that adapt to the altered world that followed. The implications of this boundary are immense. It suggests that life on Earth is not a continuous, uninterrupted progression, but rather a series of punctuated chapters, periods of stability interrupted by catastrophic change. These changes, whether caused by asteroid impacts, volcanic eruptions, or rapid climate shifts, act as biological reset points, forcing evolution to begin anew under altered conditions. The fossil record becomes not just a chronicle of life, but a record of resilience in the face of repeated global disruption. Further analysis of the surrounding sediments reveals another layer of transformation, this time associated with dramatic shifts in sea level. Ancient coastal ecosystems are preserved here, where tidal flats once stretched across vast distances. Buried beneath fine marine silt are the remains of organisms adapted to shallow water environments. Armored fish, early amphibious vertebrates, and extensive coral-like reef structures. Their anatomy reflects transitional adaptations, features that suggest movement between aquatic and terrestrial habitats. Limbs begin to replace fins, lungs begin to supplement gills, and skeletal structures become more robust to support movement outside of water. These transitional fossils are among the most valuable evidence in understanding evolutionary processes. They demonstrate that major biological innovations do not appear suddenly, but emerge gradually through incremental modifications over millions of years. Each anatomical shift represents a survival advantage in a changing environment, preserved in stone as part of an ongoing adaptive experiment conducted by nature itself. Elsewhere in the fossil record, another category of evidence emerges: trace fossils. Unlike bones or shells, these are not remains of the body itself, but impressions of behavior. Footprints preserved in volcanic ash, burrows carved into ancient riverbanks, and feeding marks etched into fossilized wood all provide insight into how extinct organisms interacted with their environment. One remarkable trackway shows a sequence of prints shifting from walking to running, suggesting a moment of pursuit or escape frozen in time. The spacing of the footprints indicates acceleration, while the depth suggests increasing force with each step. Though the creature itself is gone, its final moments are preserved with extraordinary clarity. As research expands, scientists begin to assemble a broader temporal framework connecting these discoveries across continents. Fossils of similar species appear in vastly different regions, indicating that ancient landmasses were once connected. Plate tectonics, the slow movement of Earth's crust, gradually separated these regions, isolating populations and driving divergent evolutionary paths. Species that once shared a common ancestor evolved independently, adapting to new climates, predators, and ecological niches. Over millions of years, this separation produced the extraordinary biodiversity seen in the fossil record. One of the most compelling aspects of this research is the discovery of cyclical patterns in extinction and recovery. Geological evidence suggests that life on Earth has undergone multiple major extinction events, each followed by periods of rapid diversification. After each collapse, surviving organisms radiated into newly available ecological spaces, evolving into entirely new forms. These cycles of destruction and renewal have shaped the trajectory of life more profoundly than any single evolutionary lineage. In deeper layers still, far beneath the well-studied fossil beds, scientists encounter evidence of some of the earliest complex life forms. These ancient organisms, preserved in fine-grained shale, are often soft-bodied and delicate in structure. Jelly-like impressions, filamentous algae, and primitive multicellular organisms appear in faint but unmistakable detail. Their simplicity contrasts sharply with the more complex life forms above them, yet they represent the foundation upon which all later ecosystems were built. The preservation of such fragile life requires extraordinary conditions: rapid burial, low oxygen environments, and minimal disturbance over geological time. These rare circumstances transform ephemeral biological material into permanent records of life's earliest experiments in complexity. Each discovery pushes the boundaries of what is known about the origins of life on Earth, revealing a history far older and more intricate than previously imagined. As the investigations continue, the narrative becomes increasingly clear yet infinitely more complex. The ground beneath our feet is not a uniform layer of soil, but a vertical timeline containing the compressed history of life itself. Each centimeter represents thousands, sometimes millions of years. Each fossil is a message from a world that no longer exists, preserved against the relentless erosion of time. And yet, despite decades of discovery, the vast majority of this hidden archive remains unexplored. New technologies continue to reveal structures once thought impossible to detect, while remote regions of the planet still conceal untouched fossil beds waiting to be uncovered. With every excavation, the picture of ancient life becomes more detailed but never complete, because beneath every discovery lies another layer, and beneath that layer, another world waiting in silence. In the deepest accessible layers of Earth's geological archive, where light never reaches and pressure compresses time into stone, the story of ancient life takes on its most primitive and enigmatic form. Here, the fossils are not of towering predators or complex vertebrates, but of life at its earliest threshold, organisms so simple in structure that they blur the boundary between chemistry and biology. Encased within ancient rock formations are faint microbial mats, filament-like impressions, and chemical signatures that suggest metabolic activity billions of years old. These are not merely fossils. They are echoes of life's first attempts to establish itself on a young and volatile planet. At this scale of deep time, the Earth was an alien world. Continents had not yet stabilized into familiar shapes, and the atmosphere bore little resemblance to the oxygen-rich air of today. Volcanic activity dominated the surface, releasing gases that shaped a dense and unstable climate system. Oceans, rich in dissolved minerals, stretched across vast basins where hydrothermal vents released superheated plumes of chemical energy. It was within these extreme environments that the earliest known life forms likely emerged, microscopic organisms capable of harnessing chemical gradients to sustain themselves in the absence of sunlight. Geological evidence preserved in ancient sedimentary rock formations supports this hypothesis. Layered stromatolites, built by colonies of cyanobacteria, record some of the earliest evidence of biological activity on Earth. These structures, formed through the slow accumulation of microbial communities, reveal not only the presence of life, but also its ability to shape planetary environments. Through photosynthesis, these organisms gradually altered the composition of the atmosphere, releasing oxygen and transforming Earth from a hostile chemical system into a world capable of supporting complex life. This transformation marks one of the most significant events in planetary history, the Great Oxygenation Event. Fossilized chemical traces embedded in rock layers show a sharp increase in oxygen levels, accompanied by the disappearance of many anaerobic organisms that could not survive the new conditions. In their place, new biological pathways emerged, enabling the evolution of more complex cellular structures. This shift did not occur overnight, but unfolded over hundreds of millions of years, reshaping the trajectory of life itself. As Earth's environment stabilized, evolutionary complexity accelerated. In younger strata above these ancient microbial records, scientists uncover evidence of early multicellular organisms. Soft-bodied impressions preserved in fine sediment reveal forms unlike anything in the modern world. Leaf-like structures drifting in ancient seas, segmented bodies with no clear modern analogs, and radial organisms adapted to low-energy ecosystems. These life forms represent evolutionary experiments, many of which ended in extinction, leaving no direct descendants. Yet, among these early experiments, certain biological innovations proved transformative. The development of bilateral symmetry, for example, allowed organisms to move with greater efficiency and directional control. Fossil evidence shows gradual refinement of body plans, with nervous systems and muscular structures becoming increasingly centralized. These changes enabled more active predation, initiating an evolutionary arms race that would define much of Earth's subsequent biological history. In parallel, the fossil record begins to reveal the emergence of structured ecosystems. No longer were organisms simply existing in isolation. They were interacting in increasingly complex food webs. Predator and prey relationships became more defined, and ecological niches began to diversify. Coral-like reef systems expanded across shallow seas, forming intricate habitats that supported an explosion of biodiversity. Each layer of sediment preserves snapshots of these ecosystems, frozen in time like pages from an ancient biological manuscript. Higher in the geological sequence, the narrative shifts dramatically. The world recorded in these layers is one of dynamic, large-scale life forms, ecosystems dominated by reptiles, amphibians, and eventually mammals, each adapting to shifting climates and continental rearrangements. Fossils from this era reveal not only diversity but specialization. Herbivores developed complex digestive systems to process tough vegetation, while predators evolved increasingly efficient hunting strategies. Teeth, claws, and skeletal structures became finely tuned instruments of survival. But even these flourishing ecosystems were not permanent. The fossil record repeatedly shows abrupt transitions, moments where dominant species vanish and entire ecological structures collapse. Volcanic ash layers, iridium anomalies, and sudden shifts in sediment composition mark these turning points. Each extinction event resets the biological stage, clearing ecological space for new groups to emerge. In the aftermath, evolution accelerates, filling vacant niches with rapid bursts of diversification. One of the most striking examples of this pattern appears in the transition between the age of dinosaurs and the rise of mammals. Fossil evidence reveals that small, nocturnal mammalian species survived in the shadows of dominant reptilian fauna. After the extinction event that eliminated non-avian dinosaurs, these surviving mammals underwent rapid evolutionary expansion. Within relatively short geological timeframes, they diversified into a vast array of forms, occupying ecological roles once held by other groups. In more recent strata, geologically speaking, though still millions of years removed from the present, fossils begin to resemble modern life more closely. Early ancestors of primates, large herbivores, and carnivorous mammals appear with increasingly recognizable anatomical features. The refinement of sensory systems, particularly vision and hearing, suggests adaptation to more complex and variable environments. Climatic fluctuations, including ice ages and warming periods, further shaped evolutionary trajectories, forcing migration, adaptation, and in some cases, extinction. Throughout this immense timeline, one theme remains constant: transformation. The Earth is not a static archive, but a dynamic system in which life and environment continuously reshape one another. The fossil record captures this interplay in exquisite detail, preserving evidence of adaptation, survival, and loss across unimaginable spans of time. Each discovery adds another fragment to a story that is both deeply ancient and still unfolding. And yet, despite centuries of scientific exploration, the majority of the story remains hidden. Vast regions of sedimentary rock remain unexamined, deep ocean floors conceal unknown fossil beds, and tectonic processes continue to bury and preserve new chapters of biological history. With every passing year, erosion reveals new clues while simultaneously destroying others, ensuring that the record is always incomplete. In the end, the hidden story of ancient life buried beneath our feet is not a single narrative, but an ever-expanding mosaic. It is a record written by extinction and survival, by catastrophe and renewal, by the slow and relentless passage of geological time. And as long as the Earth continues to shift, erode, and transform, new fragments of that story will continue to emerge, waiting silently beneath stone, soil, and sea, for the moment they are brought back into the light.